What's going on, everybody? This is Catfish on Ice with Chad Mitten and Rich Howe, your host, bringing you the last episode of 2022. Can you believe it, Rich?
I can't even believe this year has flown by so quick.
It really does. It's really true. It's really true. They say when you're a kid, everyone tells you when you get older, the days just fly by, the years fly by. I did not understand that when I was younger, when adults used to tell me that, but it is so true.
It's insane. It's crazy. Did you have a good Christmas? How was your Christmas?
It was good. So it was actually legitimately cold down here in Florida. Oh, yeah. It was in the low 30s here in the Tampa Bay area. They said it was the coldest Christmas in over 30 years on record here in the Tampa Bay area. And when it's cold, they weren't lying when they said when it's cold here, it feels colder than the actual temperature because you're getting that ocean breeze, that ocean air. So the air feels like really wet and damp. It makes your clothes feel damp.
Yep.
All it's taken is 5 months for me to become very, very weak in the cold weather. It took me 5 months.
I don't exactly remember your travel schedule, but I think you made it back to Florida in time to avoid the 0 degree weather.
Gosh. Yes.
And the snow and it was actually like -9 here.
That's crazy.
Saturday morning. Yeah. Christmas Eve. Yeah. It was like -9 or something. It was. You'd have probably
I got back to Florida like a day or two before the bottom fell out across the entire country in terms of temperatures. And I got extremely lucky getting on an airplane 2 days before because I don't know if you've seen the news, but the airlines are just a disaster right now. Like thousands upon thousands of flight cancellations, people literally sleeping on the floor. In airports, people can't find their luggage. Their luggage is lost, never to be found ever again by the airlines. Yep. I got extremely lucky, didn't run into any major problems on the airlines really, other than a few delays here and there. So I got extremely lucky. That was a good early Christmas present for me that I got fortunate enough to not have to spend the night in an airport.
You got another good Christmas present too, though. You got to go to Bridgestone
and see them win. My luck continues. My luck continues. When I'm in attendance at Bridgestone Arena, it brings out the best in the Nashville Predators. I'm just saying, I'm not saying I have some type of special powers or anything, but I'm just saying every time I'm in Bridgestone Arena, every time I'm in the building, it brings out the best in this team.
They snapped a 6-game losing streak on that night.
And we're gonna talk about it a little bit. We've missed 5 games since the last episode of Catfish on Ice. This is episode 165. It's the last episode before we roll into 2023. Still can't believe I'm saying that, but we're gonna quickly recap those 5 games we missed. Of course, the big crown jewel of that 5-game slate that we missed was probably their best win of the season, arguably a 4-3 overtime win against an up and down Oilers team. But I got to tell you, being in attendance there, being in attendance at that game, the Predators played a complete 60-minute game, and they had to play a complete 60-minute game to beat that Oilers team that night.
And barely beat them.
We've got a commenter here on YouTube jumps in. Boyce Cannon, a.k.a. Country Boy, says, I hope to see the Predators can turn this season around. Yeah, we're right there with you, Boyce. We are right there with you. There's still a razor-thin amount of time where they could do that. Money Puck gives the Predators an 18% chance to make the playoffs right now if they beat the Stars on Tuesday night, which we're going to preview that matchup.
Wow,
so,
I hadn't seen that.
But, I mean, Rich, we've done this over the years doing the podcast. We always like to follow the playoff probabilities. And what was the one year when their playoff odds were like 3%, 4%?
It was very low.
And they still made it.
Was it last year or the year before? It was last year. Pretty sure it was last year.
And I would venture to say the majority of fans at this point don't even want the Predators to make the playoffs anymore. They're so over it and past it.
They don't.
And it's sad. It's sad that the fan base has reached that point. I get it, but it's just between the Predators and the Titans, there's something weird going on in Nashville. There's something in the air. There's something in the water. Both franchises are like mirror images of each other right now when it comes to ineptitude and letting the fan base down. So maybe the Predators are can still give us a glimmer of hope and make something special out of this season. But
I think something is in the air with the Predators, and I think its name is Barry Trotz.
We're going to bring him up again. Thank God Kyle's not in the episode yet, because he would already be – I could see him rolling his eyes already.
Yep.
We bring in Barry Trotz again.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about some realistic hopes, expectations, what we see happening in 2023 for this Nashville Predators franchise. I've got a major overall theme, and it's not going to be probably what anyone wants to hear. It's pretty bleak. Nope. But I think 2023 is going to be a major game-changing, wild, fork-in-the-road year for this Nashville Predators franchise.
Definitely.
The days of competing for Stanley Cups and making the playoffs and being relevant in the Western Conference are probably over for the foreseeable future, and I think it's all going to come to a head in 2023. I hope I'm wrong, but I feel it's coming.
Yep. Here's a voice again. Get rid of Hines.
No, well, yeah, he's beating the drum for about thousands upon thousands of fans. But yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about it. But I remember like a month or two ago, we were like, "What's going to happen if they're not winning at the end of December?"
We did this topic before the first game of the season was played. I'm pretty sure people laughed at us. So people were like, "Oh, Hines ain't going nowhere. What are you talking about? You're crazy. He just signed a 2-year extension. And I don't know now. I don't know. That rolls into the whole 20. That rolls into the 2023 outlook. We can move Hines into that discussion in 2023 when we do that. Also, we're going to preview this Stars game that's coming up. If you're listening on Tuesday and you just downloaded the podcast, first of all, thank you. And if you're listening on your car ride home, you're probably not working right now. You're probably off work through the holidays, and you're getting to spend some time at home with some family, enjoying all your gifts from Christmas, whatever. If you're listening to the podcast right now, the Preds play the Stars on Tuesday night. So
big matchup.
It's a big matchup, third meeting of the season. We're going to preview this matchup for you. And then to round out this episode, Taylor from Two Girls, One Stanley Cup. They cover the Dallas Stars. And she puts out some great content, has a huge Dallas Stars following. And
got a lot to be happy about right now.
She's going to join the podcast at the end of this episode. And she is going to tell us everything we need to know about the Stars. We're going to get her perspective from a Stars perspective on what she thinks about the Predators. Because I think we did it in the last episode. We did the top 5 current rivals, and I had the Stars as my top current rival. So lots to get into there for episode 165. All right, Rich. So let's get it opened up here, opening face-off. Let's recap the last 5 games that we've missed. Put it on the bottom of the screen here. Of course, the nice win over the Oilers got everything rolling.
That was such a good game. It was lots of you can't rest on your laurels when you're playing the Oilers, and that was proof. That game was proof of that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, let me say the most impressive thing about that game for me was the Predators had the lead 3 different times over the course of that game. They scored the first goal of the game. They went up 2-1. They went up 3-2. And of course, like you would expect, the Oilers kept pushing back. And, me being in attendance there, I was just being kind of the negative Nancy and thinking, you know what, they just don't have enough. And I was kept waiting for the Oilers to get that go-ahead goal and send the Predators to another loss because I got to tell you, this was not one of those games where the Oilers played a really bad game and the Predators just kind of like lucked into it. No, the Oilers actually played a pretty good game and the Predators played one of their best games of the season. That's what it took. That's what it took to get a 4-3 win, and it took overtime to do it. Yeah,
for sure. And the one bad, if there's anything bad about the Oilers, it is their goaltending. And Jack Campbell is
what happened to Jack Campbell?
They paid him so much money.
That looked like such a great offseason addition at the time. I remember thinking, wow, the Oilers just got their goaltender. That's what they were missing to win a Stanley Cup. He's just fallen off. He's fallen off a cliff. He had a really bad – and he had a really bad game analytically speaking. If I remember correctly, he was in the negative on goals saved above expected, whereas UC Saros was in the positive in that game. So the Predators won the goaltending battle there. First of all, that was the first time I ever saw – Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in person.
Oh, wow. That's probably pretty cool.
it doesn't do the television does not do it justice. How freakishly inhuman, out of this world Connor McDavid is. The dude looked like he was getting shot out of a rocket skating down the ice. And in the overtime session, it was crazy how Connor McDavid was just like had all this speed and he could just effortlessly skate around defenders and make it look so easy. Saros had some really big saves. They pinned in Leon Draisaitl, and they finally did not let Leon Draisaitl beat them. He was held scoreless on the score sheet. Did not register a single point. That is a welcoming sight, considering Draisaitl has regularly scored 4 to 5 points in his Preds going up against the Preds in his career.
He did not own them that night, but
it's about time.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins sure did play pretty well. He had 2 goals, and then the other one was
McDavid had a handful of assists, as you would expect, but overall, it was a win you really needed. It was, and I got to give a lot of credit to the crowd. I was not sure what kind of crowd was going to be at this game. The week before Christmas, I just wasn't sure if fans were selling off their tickets. I didn't know that there would be a lot of Oilers fans there. I did not see a lot of Oilers fans at the game, which kind of surprised me a little bit. But I'm sure that's a hard trip to make this time of year.
Yeah, for sure.
I gotta say, the arena was almost full. There were empty seats here and there. All the upper deck was full. Really, the only seats I saw that was empty was here and there, scattered in the lower bowl. There were some empty seats, but it was almost a packed house, which kind of surprised me. So the crowd got loud. The crowd got louder as the game went on. It was kind of quiet to open the game, and as they saw that the Predators were actually playing a really good game, the fans got behind them. And it was actually a pretty fun atmosphere, I must say, despite the team's struggles. So shout out to the fans for bringing it in on that occasion.
And then shout out to the Predators defensemen. 3 of the 4 goals.
Yes.
Scored by defensemen.
Alexander Carrier has been a welcome addition back. Ryan McDonough's back in the fold now. And one thing I've been saying is the Preds do not have the injury excuse right now. They've got pretty much everyone in their lineup with the exception of Mark Borowiecki, which, obviously we hope he can make it back. I still don't have any idea when he's going to be back.
I don't know.
It's a long road to recovery for him, but either way, the Preds are getting healthy. Tommy Novak gets the call, and what do you know? He's already been sent back to Milwaukee, but
I saw that on Facebook, but I think they just did that so they don't have to pay him so much over the holiday.
Yeah, I've seen back and forth on it that it was just a cat move and he's going to come right back up. A little loophole to save a little money. From what I saw, they didn't save that much money really in terms of salary cap, but if you can save money here and there, you're going to do it, even if it's a little bit. So hopefully that's all it is, because you want to talk about another reason to enrage this fan base. If they send down Tommy Novak for the long haul and they don't bring him back up soon, he made such a noticeable difference right in his first couple of minutes on the ice in his first game.
He did, yeah.
And that Edmonton game, Edmonton game was his first game in the lineup. And he generated the first goal of the game for Matthias Ekholm by getting in the slot. He generated a rebound off of Jack Campbell, and Matthias Ekholm knocked it home. In his second game back, he scores a goal. He made a big impact on the power play right out of the gate. So the Predators, I'm hoping we'll find out tomorrow that Novak's right back in the lineup, and that was just a little bit of a salary cap move.
Yeah, I think what you said, if he's not in there tomorrow, the fans are going to go insane. I mean, it's going to be crazy because he played so well, like you said. He definitely injected some life into a team that was struggling heavily. So, and
that's what the fans want right now. They want to see the young players there, just like they wanted that last season as well. They want to see Novak in there. They want to see it's awesome that Cody Glass is getting top 6 minutes. That's something I'll give credit to the coaching staff for. And they've left him up there and they've let him. What do you think, Rich? We haven't talked about this. What do you think, Rich, about how they demoted Mikael Granlund to the bottom 6?
I think he's just trying to do anything he can to get those guys motivated to play, because he actually put Johansson down there too. Yeah, man. Those guys need to wake up. Like Matt Duchene, like in this Edmonton win, all defensemen scored except for Matt Duchene. Like that just seems really weird. It's awesome.
Well, and Matt Duchene's been, once again, he's been a little snake bitten by some really good goaltending, as has Cody Glass. Cody Glass has had plenty of good chances to put the puck between the pipes, and he's been the victim of some really good saves on the other end from goaltenders. Cody Glass is starting to figure it out, and shout out to Kyle Perkins, our co-host, who hopefully will be back after the holidays are over. He will be back with us for another episode. But Kyle Perkins, our co-host and good friend, he called it from the start on Cody Glass. He has been beating the drum on Cody Glass for a long time, and we're finally starting to see results on the ice from Cody Glass. He's getting elevated ice time. He's earned it since training camp, and it's only a matter of time until he starts piling up the points. It's going to come. Yeah, but he's doing all these other great things. That's the only thing that's left is for him to really start piling up those points. It's going to happen for him. He's doing all the right things right now.
Yep, absolutely.
And then if you look at the other 5 games here, the Predators follow up that win over Edmonton with a 4-2 win over Chicago. Did you get a chance to watch that game?
I did watch that game. It was good. It's good.
Chicago is really, really bad.
They're so bad.
I was going to go on a limb and say that right now. And also, the Predators once again took a whole period off in that game. And if you're playing almost any other team, you're probably going to lose. But since they were playing the Blackhawks, they still snuck out with the win. I think it was the second period in that game that they just seemed to fall asleep at the wheel.
They did. A player for Chicago named Mackenzie Entwistle scored their second goal. I'm like, I don't even know who that is. I never even heard of him. But they were actually losing at that point. It was Nashville 1, Chicago 2.
Yeah, and then they gave up like a couple goals really quick in a row to Chicago, the Predators had a lot of things go their way because they were playing a bad team in that particular game, probably the worst team in the league, a team that's clearly tanking and probably wants Connor Bedard really badly. But, the Predators scored to tie it at 2 in the last 5 seconds of that period. If Duchene doesn't score that goal there, that could be a whole different game right there. And that just changes the whole outlook of a game when you score in the last 10 seconds of a period like that.
For sure. And then you could see it when they were playing. Like that's demoralizing to any team.
And then Roman Yossi's goal was just ridiculous. It was just I don't know if you remember that goal from Roman Josi.
Yeah.
It was his 7th goal of the season. He scored less than 2 minutes into the third period. So just like that, the Predators were back ahead. They never looked back. Tommy Novak gets the power play goal to ice it away.
Yep.
And so, the Predators got another win there, albeit against the Blackhawks, but you'll take it.
Hey, man, you know what? You take them because any of these teams can beat any of the other teams on any given night. So.
And then I will be the first to admit, all I got to see was the highlights of the Preds-Avs game, the third meeting of the season. I know the Preds took them to overtime. It was another low-scoring game. They get a point, but they still can't figure out a way to beat the Avs. It's so infuriating. But I got a chance to look at the highlights. I got a chance to look at the box score, the analytics. But as far as watching the game in real time, unfortunately, I was not able to do that. Rich, did you get a chance to really catch that game closely?
I did watch it. It was good. Saros, he put up a good fight like he always does, and he definitely didn't deserve that loss.
Duchene scored another goal in that game too. Duchene's had a lot of personal individual success against the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah,
he's a goal per game player against the Avalanche. I saw that and I could not believe it.
Yeah.
If you look at his career record against the Avalanche, he's scored a goal in every game pretty much he's played against the Avalanche.
Yeah. Ryan Johansson got one from Novak and Yossi, so that was good. And then, Colorado, they're missing a bunch of players, but they're still dangerous. I mean, you cannot give them, one little moment of you can't take any shifts off for sure because they'll hurt you, and they did. I mean, they did, and plus they started the overtime. Colorado was on power play, so that didn't help.
Duchene is on a current 4-game goal streak right now.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So we're talking about these last 5 games, and 4 of these last 5 games since we last did our last episode. So this current 5-game slate we're recapping right now. Duchesne scored a goal in 4 of those 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. That's good. That's what we want to see.
The Predators. There's a reason why the Predators are one of the lowest scoring teams in the league. It's because your Matt Duchesne's, your Philip Forsbergs, your Mikael Granlunds, your Ryan Johansson's, your top 6 players, forwards aren't scoring like they should. No. I do think, to go back to Cody Glass, he's starting to make a difference there, for sure. So you need Matt Duchesne to start cooking. And so 4 games in a row with 4 goals is a huge step in the right direction. Let's see if he can keep that up.
You really need Philip Forsberg to step, man. That guy, I don't know what's going on.
Well, so later in this episode, we're bringing back pick 1, lose 1. And for anyone who's been listening to the podcast for a long time, we haven't played this game in a while. I don't even know if we've played it this season yet. But it's a really straightforward and easy game. We'll throw 2 players at each other on this current Preds team. You can keep one. You got to lose the other one. It's a hypothetical thing, of course. Yeah. And Philip Forsberg, needless to say, is going to be one of mine for you, Rich. But fine. You'll have to wait on who the other player is that I give you to choose from.
It used to be when we played, it was always, do you want to get rid of, is it Matt Duchesne and Ryan Johansson?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll steer clear of that one this time. Or you can.
No, we won't do that one.
And times change. I mean, how we felt about it last year might be different this year. So who knows?
Yeah.
All right. And so, so overall, it's a pretty good 5-game stretch to maybe stop the bleeding a little bit, but they're still so far behind, and they've still got so much ground to make up that I mean, they can't afford to really stumble at all anymore. I mean, I know we're not at the halfway point of the season yet, so it's a little over dramatic to say they can't stumble at all, but there's not a lot of room here to mess up anymore.
Well, I was pulling up the standings. So in the wild card, they've actually got a game over in hand against let me pull it up real quick.
I got it in front of me here. They've actually got 3 games in hand over Calgary, who is 6 points ahead of them in the second wild card. And they've got 1 game in hand over the Minnesota Wild, who are 7 points ahead of them. They've also got 3 games in hand over Edmonton, who is ahead of them in the standings. They've got 2 games in hand over the St. Louis Blues are ahead of them. In fact, the Predators have played the fewest games in the Western Conference at 32 games. They're tied with a few other teams who've also only played 32 games. So
because of the water main break. Yeah.
So you can take that into effect as well.
Yeah. But they are in a hole. They are in a hole. And you get rid of those 3 games in hand, that's 6 points. That puts you to possibly getting into the wild card.
I'll go ahead and say it right now.
Right. I don't know.
If this team suffers another 5-6 game losing streak, or another streak where they lose 5 of 7 or 6 of 8, then I think that should officially wave the white flag to the season. You start thinking about the trade deadline, which is only a couple months away.
Yep.
And I'm thinking you become sellers and you start getting on that phone if you're David Poile, and you're prepared to go into a full-on youth movement next year, like we've been saying for years now. Yeah. But you really commit to it at that point. And that's kind of – let's get into our next segment that's going to take us into that. It's a pretty easy segment to get into, and that is what are we expecting for 2023 as a whole, the whole year, not just the season, but the whole year. And what I kind of alluded to earlier in this episode here was this is literally the crossroads of the Nashville Predators franchise is coming up right here in the next couple months.
Yep.
And I think even if this team does make the playoffs and they lose in the first round again, I think enough's going to be enough. You've got this new ownership that's slowly going to start working their way in. I don't know if Hines makes it one more year or not. It depends, I guess. I could see it going either way. He's only got one more year left on his contract as it is. He's definitely not going to be the head coach past that next year. His days are numbered either way. At the very most, he's got one more year left on his contract.
He's definitely not a rebuilding period coach for sure, like at all.
At that point, you bring up Carl Taylor from Milwaukee. That's my.
Oh man, you want to talk about some happy fans?
That would re-energize the fan base, and no one is saying if he became the head coach that this team would magically become a Stanley Cup contender. We realize realistically it's going to take time if you make that transition, but at least the fan base would be energized again. At least you would have a new head coach in there who can bring their own style, and he's already developed a lot of these players as it is, and these players respect him. I would be all for it if they do that in the offseason. I'd be all for it. So that's one thing I'm thinking about in 2023 is this franchise goes in a completely different direction than what we've seen this franchise go in over the last decade plus. I would have to go back. I would have to go back to when this franchise fired Barry Trotz and went to Peter Laviolette. It would be the biggest shift in this franchise since that year. Yeah. Which was like 2013, I believe.
And what I just thought about it, what could be a shame is if they aren't sellers at the trade deadline and they try to stick it out, then that just puts off the inevitable and spreads it out even longer. It's like if you're not even in sniffing distance, or if you're like right on the bubble of wild card, I just don't think it's worth it to not be sellers. I mean,
well, that's the biggest nightmare of Predators fans right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this team's going to be just relevant enough to not get a good draft pick?
Yep.
Like we're not saying we want them to lose on purpose, but what we're saying
I will never say that for sure.
What we're saying is you can still be competitive, but have a long-term outlook on the future. And for whatever reason, this front office just they never seem to be looking at it from a long-term future outlook. They're always thinking about it like, no, we're going to do everything we can to do it this year.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't worked. It hasn't worked.
Yeah. And we heard, what was it, like 2 years ago, the competitive rebuild or whatever. It can't even be that. It needs to be just like.
Well, and David Poyle has said it plenty of times in interviews. He says that you're rebuilding every year. That was kind of his answer, is every year, every team is rebuilding. You're always I think he likes to use the term retool. You're always retooling your franchise.
Yeah, for sure. But if he's only got like one more year or 2 more years, what a send off he's gonna give himself if he has to rebuild this team in the final year of his tenure with the Predators.
Talking about John Hines?
No, Poyle.
Had
this long storied career, and like his final year or 2 years, the Predators are going to be possibly in a rebuild. I think that would just be that's a crappy way for him to go out. But
I think that's why this fan base is so they're so numb to everything by now. They that's why you see all the negativity on Twitter surrounding this team, is because they're so sick of it. They've been dealing with this since the Stanley Cup year. This team is, put us through all this.
Yep. Justin Gambino, we should retool management.
Yeah.
Hey man, that's probably gonna happen. I would say that's probably gonna happen. Anyway,
you really think it's gonna? It's not gonna happen in 2023.
No, it won't happen in 2023. But if Poyle's still in there, I think when the new owner takes over, I don't think he'll be in there for that when that guy takes over. I just don't see that.
Depending on how bad this season goes, as far as, let's say, the Predators completely miss fall out of the playoff race, and the last month of the season they're not even in playoff contention. That's going to be the first time this franchise has had to deal with that in almost a decade. If they fall out of playoff contention that early, I could see John Hines getting fired this offseason with 1 year left on his contract if the team falls back that far.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you've got yourself a pretty good draft pick. This draft pool, this draft class this year is way deeper. I was looking at the draft rankings on some of these websites a couple of days ago, and most of your top 10 to 15 projected picks are offensive players.
Oh, wow.
Centers and wingers. This draft class is very top heavy with centers and wingers. So if the Predators can pick in the top 10 of the draft, I'm not even thinking about Connor Bedard. There are so many very intriguing prospects. I've looked at some highlight film of some of these guys, and we'll talk about that when the time gets closer.
Yeah.
But it makes me excited about thinking about the Predators finally getting a top 10 pick.
Yeah. So if they do get a top 10 pick or whatever, by the time that player is ready to be, in Milwaukee or whatever, the whoever's in charge right now probably won't be in charge, and we won't run into the you ruined Ellie Tolvanen, you've ruined whoever else. So
so the Predators haven't picked top 10 in the draft since they picked Seth Jones.
Wow.
And that was I believe that was 2013.
Yeah.
So they very rarely ever pick that high in the draft.
And that didn't really pan out, did it?
That would be a welcoming sight for me. Well, they got Ryan Johansson out of it.
That's true. Yeah.
So you can take that for what it is.
Yeah. Sort of panned out, I guess.
So, yeah, I guess that's another thing that fits into my 2023 outlook is where are the Predators going to pick in the draft? I would be totally fine as a consolation prize. If the Predators miss the playoffs, give me a top 10 draft pick, and I will be extremely excited about the draft this year. Probably more excited than I've been in a while. Because one thing I will give David Poile credit with is he's strung together some really good draft classes recently. He's done a good job drafting. I'll give him credit on that.
Right.
He deserves credit for that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's just what happens to him after that. But so let me ask you this. So let's say the Predators miss the playoffs this year. What does this team look like in the 2023-2024 season? What do you think they look like?
I think that they will definitely trade a veteran away. Whether it's first of all, let me pull up their contract situation first. Their salary.
Yep.
Let's see who some unrestricted free agents are this year, because that's actually a really good question from Rich. I think that if they miss the playoffs and they're far out of playoff contention before the trade deadline, which is I believe March the 3rd, you got to try to trade one of these assets, whether it's Matt Duchene, whether it's Granlund, Johansson. Their contracts are a little bit easier to move now. So I would start with those three guys. I would even think about trading Colton Sissons.
That's a good one.
As much as I love Colton Sissons.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You look at this contract tracker and there's some I'm trying to just check it out real quick. Yeah, Mikael Granlund sticks out, and he's got 2 more years after this year. Ryan Johansson, that's another one. Yeah, that's good. Nito Niederreiter's got this year and next year, so he might not be around.
I think they would keep him around.
I hope they do. I like him.
They would keep him around.
Yeah.
But, yeah, let's look at some of these unrestricted free agents coming up for this year. Cole Smith is an unrestricted free agent. But I would
out bringing his name up.
If this team misses the playoffs, you let Mark Jankowski go. He's 28. He's 28 years old. I actually like some of the things that Jankowski's done, but you let him go. They don't have a ton of unrestricted free agents this year.
They have Michael McCarron, Zach Sanford.
Well, Sanford's gone anyway, isn't he? Or did he end up going down to Milwaukee?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, I don't remember. I don't think they've updated this. They still have Ellie Tolvanen on here.
Are you on Catfish? Oh, yeah.
Yakov Trinen's only got this year and next year, but
I think you want Trenin as part of your rebuild at 25.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to have to trade one of these big pieces. I think Ryan Johansson's contract is actually movable right now because he's only got 1 more year left. You might have to retain some salary though. You would have to retain some of that $8 million salary, but I would look for a way to move on from Ryan Johansson.
Yeah, unfortunately,
he's my number one. I would even move from Mikael Granlund too. I'd get rid of Mikael Granlund. I mean, I love the guy, but he's 30. He hasn't panned out quite like you need him to. And if you really are going to rebuild, that's a very easy contract to move. He's only at $5 million. He's got 2 more years left after this year. I think you could move a Mikael Granlund very easily and actually get a decent return from him. So these are tough decisions to make. But if you truly want to be in a rebuild in 2023, I'm looking at Ryan Johansson and Mikael Granlund first.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of we're blinded a little bit by last year's performance. Granlund was amazing last year, but then, this year, just nothing's working for any of these guys.
You look at Colton Sissons. I mean, I always forget how long of a contract he signed originally. He is still signed until 2026-27.
Yep.
He's just a 2.86. Yeah, he's a very low for what he does for the team. That's actually a bargain.
It is.
And it would be very hard to part ways from him, but I could actually see a team taking that contract just because it's so low. I could see a team taking Colton Sissons. That'd be a hard player to lose for me, though.
It would me too. It'd be rank up there with when they lost Callie Yarncroc.
And then, of course, Dante Fabro is your top trade. That's who you want to trade. That's who fans really want to trade at this point.
They want him gone like yesterday.
And, I mean, obviously, that's the player that would be the easiest to move on from because you got Jordan Gross. And if Dante Fabro is gone, Jordan Gross proved to you that he can be counted upon to play every night if you need him. I thought he did very, very well and responded to the pressure while Ryan McDonough was out on injury. So, yeah, of course, Dante Fabro is who you want to trade the most right now. Yeah, I just don't know what you're going to get out of him that's really going to make you that much better. I don't know if the market's not going to be very high on him at all.
Yeah, and they've got quite a few defensemen locked up for a pretty long time. Like Borbies,
you're going to get
I'd say this is probably going to be his last season, unfortunately. I don't know. It just seems like it's the last for him. And then Carrier is a restricted free agent after this year. And then all the rest of them are signed for 4 years or more. Or 3 more years after this year or more. So got it.
I'm gonna call it like it is. I think the Predators missed the playoffs this year for sure. Yeah. That's my prediction for 2023. They're going to miss the playoffs for the first time in 9 years.
Yeah.
And next year's Predators team that gets trotted out is going to be one of the youngest teams that they've iced in a very long time. And I actually think it's going to re-energize the fan base.
I think so too. But I think if they do that, I think they got to find another coach. I just don't think.
And I can see that happening. I mean, I get it. If you're going to rebuild like that, then you need to start with the new head coach as well. I'm right there with you.
I just don't think I don't think he is good at building up young talent. It just doesn't seem like it, I don't know. Just from
I say the most obvious choice is you promote Carl Taylor to an NHL head coaching job because I'm really worried that if they go out and they get one of these recycled head coaches that have already failed in other NHL stops, then you're just going to give yourself the same problem.
Yeah, I agree.
If this team is truly going to be a younger team and go through a rebranding of sorts with a younger nucleus of players, which they've got the prospect pool right now to facilitate a rebuild. And no one said that if they're rebuilding, that means they have to be terrible. They can still compete. They can still compete. They can still put out they can still compete. They can still put out a good product on the ice. You've still got UC Saros in net that's going to win you a lot of games. You still got the captain, Roman Josi. You still got Philip Forsberg. You're still going to keep a few of these players around. But overall, the brand of this team needs to be a very young team, much like what the LA Kings did.
Yeah,
that's kind of my blueprint. The Avalanche did the same thing. The Avalanche didn't just become a Stanley Cup team overnight. They were horrendous for a long time.
They were.
And if you go back and look at their blueprint and how they built their team, they drafted smart. They made really smart decisions at trade deadlines and in free agency. And they did it a multitude of different ways. And they took care of their stars when they needed to, like Nathan McKinnon and Cal McCarr. So it takes time, though. You have to be willing to go through it.
We like to take care of our supposed stars other than, Roman Josi. But, our stars are being taken care of, but they're not producing, and that's what's bad. That's
I'm gonna throw one more thing at you before we go to the next segment here, Rich. Have you seen some online chatter between Preds fans on Twitter and stuff saying that this offseason the Predators need to shop UC Saros?
I did see that. I was actually going to bring that up. I don't know how I feel about that.
That just seems like, but who are you going to start in net then? Because Kevin Lankinen's not coming back.
No.
So yes, you could get a huge return trade package for UC Saros.
You could.
I mean, you would get a king's ransom in return for UC Saros. That would be the ultimate rebuild move right there.
No, it would be. Heck yeah, it would. But maybe if they did that, and as much as I would hate it, you could keep Lankinen if he's going to be promised a starter role, because he's been playing really well too. But
man, that would really.
Whew, yeah.
I think what we're trying to get at here, everybody, is 2023 is probably going to have plenty of drama. So let's just get ready for it.
Probably the most we've seen in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then
so buckle up.
I wanted to bring up real quick our friend Nikki, who's on the podcast, comes on here and talks to us all the time. She actually tagged me and you in a video clip from 102.5 The Game. Jared Stillman talking about Barry Trotz being in Nashville or whatever. This is from December 20th, and I listened to the whole thing, and they're making it sound like he's wanting a job somewhere, and that's why he's kind of down here. So
yeah, well, I've also read that he doesn't necessarily want to coach this year, but maybe get back into coaching next year. So yes, it's very possible that.
So
the team moves on from John Hines, but they wait till the offseason. They let him go, and then they get Barry Trotz. It could happen.
They get Barry Trotz. He coaches for a year and then moves into the general manager role.
A lot. I mean, there's a lot up in there. But what we're trying to say is 2023 is going to be a crazy year. Get ready for it, everybody. All right, so that's our overall outlook going into 2023.
Buckle up.
Justin Gambino on the thoughts about Saros. He says Saros is definitely a first-round pick and prospects type of package.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I can't even imagine him not being here.
All right. Before we move on to our next segment here on episode 165 of Catfish on Ice with Chad Minton and Rich Howe, your host, brought to you by DraftKings. Hockey fans, light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pre-game money line on any NHL team to win their game. Get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays, combine multiple bets like which team will win, and much more. How many goals will be scored, and more for your shot and an even bigger payout. So if you're feeling really, really lucky one night, you can do the same-game parlays and have a lot of fun while you're watching the game. And, of course, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. It's easy to use. The app is so user-friendly. Deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See our show notes below the episode for details. If you need any type of gambling help, have a gambling crisis, a gambling problem, need counseling, referral services, there's plenty of phone numbers in the episode details that you can reach out and get help you need. All right, let's play the game, Rich. Pick one, lose one.
You want me to go first?
How about you throw one at me?
I have a good one. Are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be. These are always tough, man.
This is pretty good. Colton Sissons or Tanner Jeannot? Both have. Tanner Jeannot only has 6 points in 32 games. Big, huge drop off from last season. Colton Sissons has 8 points in 32 games. There you go.
Right,
which one you want?
Yours is pick one, lose one. Sissons or Jeannot?
Sissons or Jeannot?
It's tough for me, man. But I'm gonna go with Colton Sissons. You know I'm a Colton Sissons guy.
Yep.
He's so underappreciated
Absolutely. He's
And
the Cali Yarncroc.
he is he's never going to be confused as an offensively gifted high-end player. He impacts his two-way game, his face-offs, his defense, his block shots, his intangibles, his on-ice leadership. I remember when we did the expansion draft episode, how worried I was about losing Colton Sissons to the Seattle Kraken. And as much as I hated seeing Cal Yarncroc get taken there, I was so grateful that it wasn't Colton Sissons.
Yep.
This is a tough one for me because you're talking about two players that can do a lot in their two-way game. Tanner Jeannot has left a lot to be desired for me this year, man.
He has. His
offense, he's fallen off a cliff offensively. He's basically non-existent offensively. He still takes a lot of bad penalties at times. He loses his cool. He's been a little invisible out there.
Yeah,
he's still a great fighter, obviously, and everyone loves that. But after thinking about it for just like a couple seconds, it's a pretty easy choice for me. I'm taking Colton Sissons.
I agree 100% with that. That's a good one.
You would take Colton Sissons as well?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, I got a really, really hard one for you.
I bet. I'm ready.
Philip Forsberg or UC Saros?
Holy crap. I would take UC Saros.
And why is that?
Because I like goaltenders a lot. That's like my favorite thing. Man, if you don't
this is all hypothetical here, people. Like, we're not getting into contracts and cap space. This is all just hypothetical for fun here.
Yep. I love Philip Forsberg, but if you don't have a good goaltender, you really don't have much. You look at Edmonton, they don't have a good goaltender, and if they did not have the other two players that they have, they would not be anywhere near where they're at. If you don't have good goaltending, you don't. That's a good base, a good foundation for the whole team.
And to piggyback off what you're saying, Rich, because I completely agree with you, it's way easier to replace a Philip Forsberg than it is a UC Saros.
It is.
Just ask all the teams who have been goalie purgatory for years and years and years, and then look at a team like the Predators, a franchise like the Predators that has been so lucky and so fortunate to have basically for the last 15 years, they've had UC Saros and Pekka Rinne as their two starting goaltenders. I mean, that's basically why the Predators have made 8 straight postseasons. It's because they had Pekka Rinne and UC Saros in that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, even when Saros struggles, he still, you know, rebounds quickly and makes incredible saves all the time.
I mean, most of the time when Saros gets lit up for 3, 4, 5 goals, it's usually because of a parade to the penalty box. It's usually because of the defense giving up odd man rushes left and right. And it really just eats at you. It gets under your skin when you see Saros get a great start spoiled.
Yeah. Well,
by the play in front of him.
Losing to Colorado. That's exactly what happened. You know, they went on right at the end of the third period, they put Colorado on the power play, started off 4-on-3. That just wears people out. And then by the time the power play was over, like they didn't have anything left and they just could not stop Colorado, and Saros got the loss, unfortunately, because of that. So
yeah.
All
right, you got another one for me?
I do. This one's pretty good. Matthias Ekholm or Ryan McDonough at this point?
Matthias Ekholm or Ryan McDonough? Ooh, that is tough.
It is hard. I have my answer.
Because they both play very similar styles.
They do.
They're both very defensive minded, but they can both. Ekholm can bring you a little bit more offense than McDonough, but not much. Not much. That's a really tough one
at this point. Yeah,
that's a really tough one, man. That's almost a flip a coin for me, but I got to pick. That's the game.
Yep.
I'm going to keep McDonough.
Good man.
Because I look at Ekholm like you've had a good run. You've been with the Preds for a long time. He's top 10 in all-time games played for the franchise. I think he's like 7th or something like that. So he's been with this team for a long time. He's done a lot of great things. They call him, what do they call him? The Swedish Redwood?
Swedish Redwood. Yeah.
Which is just an elite nickname.
Chris Mason calls him, yeah.
But I'm gonna keep Ryan McDonough because he's the new guy in town. I love what I've seen from him so far. I love his leadership. I love his penalty killing. I love how he does he's the prototypical defensive defenseman.
Yep.
That this team needs because they have plenty of offensive defensemen. They don't have a lot of really good defensive defensemen, so you need Ryan McDonough more than you need Matthias Ekholm.
I agree 100%. So that with everything, Ryan McDonough also brings Stanley Cup experience to the team, and also him and Roman Josi are amazing together. So
I still don't think they've given up a goal.
Keep that
while
going.
They're on the ice together.
Absolutely, keep that going because that's awesome.
All right, you're gonna laugh at this one.
All right.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna laugh at this one. Oh my god, I can't wait.
John Hines or
you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Hines or Poyle?
I knew it.
Pick one, lose. You can't lose both. You can't lose both.
I'm gonna go. Wow, that is hard. That is hard because you're kind of. It's like picking which hammer to hit yourself in the head with. Which one's gonna hurt the least? Both have potential to do damage. I'm gonna keep Poyle because he's not got that much longer left. So yeah, Hines, they could have a new coach could have some impact.
I'm gonna clip that little 10-second clip there and share it tomorrow. And I'm gonna say host Rich Howe says we should keep David Poyle, and I'm just gonna watch your mentions blow up.
Just do it. That'd be awesome.
I would actually never do that to you, Rich. I like you too much, and that'd be really messed up. Your Twitter mentions would be blowing up. You'd have to turn your phone off. You'd have to silence Twitter for like the next 3 weeks if I shared a clip saying that you want the Preds to keep David Poyle.
It would be.
That would not. It'd be a good prank.
It would be.
But it'd be a little messed up.
It's not a big deal.
I want you to have the ability to use Twitter without your phone blowing up with angry Preds fans.
Right.
So I will not do that to you.
That's good.
All right, give me one more, Rich.
I was trying to think because we can't do Matt Duchene and Johansson because we've already kind of talked about that, and we said we would think Johansson would be gone. Let's do one with, let's see who on here. We already talked about Granlund too, so that's tough. We talked about Tanner Jeannot. What about let's do oh, this is a good one. Here you go. Would you want to get rid of Yakov Trenin or Cody Glass? I think I know the answer, but
that's actually not that hard for me, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm picking Cody Glass, and I'm not even thinking about it for longer than a second because Cody Glass is a prototypical center. Mm-hmm. He is so vital to what the Predators are searching for as far as having a true number one center down the road. You're hoping and praying, at least I am, that eventually Cody Glass is going to be your top line center for the future, for the rebuild. I want Cody Glass as my top line center.
I like it.
No offense to Yakov Trenin, but he doesn't give me enough. He scores here and there, and I love his attitude. I love his passion, but Cody Glass is way more valuable to me than Yakov Trenin is.
Yeah,
I've got a harder one for you. Cody Glass or Juuso Parssinen.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that.
I think that's way harder. And I don't know how to answer that because they're both centers. They're both big-bodied. I think here's the thing, just to help you out with your choice here, Rich. I think Parsonen's ceiling is higher than Cody Glass's. So I would cautiously, and it would be so hard, I would cautiously lean towards Juuso Parssinen, but man, that is not a fun choice to have to make.
It's not. And since Parssinen came, he started off really well. He's kind of dropped off some, but the whole team kind of dropped off. So you can't really look at that. But looking toward the future, watching Juuso Parssinen play, it seems like he's got a little bit more skill than Cody Glass. It seems like he can move the puck better. He seems like he's I know. I think he's a bigger
He's
guy.
a more powerful. He's a power forward. Like that, he's the true essence of a power forward. He uses that big frame, that big body to overpower defenders, to work his way into the zone. He's already showing that at this young point in his career. Whereas, I still think Cody Glass has a high ceiling too.
He does.
But it's a tough one. But I'm going to slightly lean towards Parsonen if you made me pick one.
Yeah. Well, I said he's bigger. They're the same exact height. And Parsonen has 10 pounds on him. That's it.
Parsonen plays with more power, though.
He seems like he does. Yeah, for sure.
Like he uses his body more to kind of to bully defenders and work his way in. Whereas I see Cody Glass as more of a finesse. He's got great puck vision. He's got great ice vision. Yep. He's that prototypical center you want. If that can end up being your top two centers whenever the Preds move on from Granlund and Ryan Johansson, sign me up for that. And that gives me reason for hope in the going down 2, 3, 4 years from now when those players really meet their highest potential. So, all right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if we can hold on to those two guys, if they are going to do this little rebuild, if that winds up happening, they could be the future.
All right, we got Taylor joining us. She covers the Dallas Stars. She's going to do a preview for us here in a little bit. Before we get to her, let's talk real quick about this matchup preview. Stars Predators. The Predators played the Stars in mid-October, early in the season. They lost 2 games in a row to them by a combined score of 9-2. The Dallas Stars are building themselves a little bit of a cushion in the division. They got a 3-point lead in the Central Division. I think the Stars are the most complete team in the division, maybe even more so than the Colorado Avalanche at this point. I mean, they've got young talent. They've got veteran talent. They've got goaltending. They've got Norris Trophy type talent. They got Jason Robertson, who is Hart Trophy talent. They've still got Joe Pavelski out there. They've still got Jamie Benn out there. They're loaded though, man.
They are loaded. And it's weird because it's like they somehow figured it out all of a sudden this year. You know what I mean?
I can't tell you how many games I've watched where the Stars are down 3-0. They're down 3-1. And it's like you can never count them out. They always figure out a way to come back. I'd like to see how many comeback wins they had this year because I'm sure they're close to leading the league at this point. Because I can tell you a handful of games I've watched where they come storming back. So this is it's going to be another really tough test for the Predators. They've had a little bit of a break here over Christmas.
Which they don't do good on days off.
No. You can't afford to come out in this first period sleepwalking because I think the Stars will rock you for 2 or 3 goals in the first period alone. I totally see that coming. So,
and it's always a rough game between these two teams.
It is. So. And Jason Robertson is the real deal.
Oh yeah,
I could see that dude winning a Hart Trophy in the next 5 years easily.
Yeah,
he's that type of talent.
A little sneak peek into the Dallas, their last 10, they're 6-3-1. The Predators are 3-4-3. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe they can. They always play well. It seems.
Money Puck has the Stars as the slight favorite in this game, but not as heavy favorites as you would think.
Yeah. Well, they always play well. You know,
this game will be in Nashville for the first meeting. We'll have to wait and see if Novak gets put back into the lineup. I would expect UC Saros to be in net again. We haven't seen Lankinen in a while. They've been rolling with Saros, but I would totally expect it to be
I would too.
To be Saros again. But yeah, I look at the Stars and I look at their forward group and they're just lines. They roll out 4 really good lines. Line 1 through 4. They're just loaded. They're stacked.
They are.
Their defensive pairings are very good.
Yeah, it's definitely it's going to be Saros because on the 30th they're playing Anaheim. I bet that's when you're going to see Lankinen because then the next day they're playing Vegas. So
that lines up to where you want Saros starting against Vegas, and you definitely want him starting against Dallas. Even though Lankinen's been good, but yeah, you definitely want it to be. All right, we're going to get to that interview with Taylor. This is episode 165 of Catfish on Ice. If you're watching the live stream right now, we hope you have a very happy New Year, bringing 2023 with us.
New Year.
And we will see you on the other side. This has been episode 166 of 165. I'm already ahead of myself.
I know, right?
165 of Catfish on Ice,
Future.
presented by DraftKings and part of Hockey Podcast Network with Chad and Rich out.
Take it easy.